Just a quick word before we start this conversation. The film we are looking at this week covers some challenging issues. If you or anyone you know may need help in any form, please reach out. We'll include places who can assist in our show notes. Hello everyone and welcome to the Flicks Forum podcast with Jesse Heater and MJ, where each week we go back and look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. This week we are up to Netflix's 42nd film. It's the 2017 drama To the Bone. It's directed by Marti Noxon and stars Lily Collins, Carrie Preston, Lili Taylor and Keanu Reeves. Hello.
Hey mates.
Hey boys.
How are we doing this evening?
Very good.
Yeah, I'm well. I think I really like the title of this film, To the Bone. I like the kind of the double meaning of it. Obviously, it scares you to the bone or chills you to the bone. And the literal meaning of
to the bone,
having no real fat on your bone. So.
Yeah, so
Clever title.
We like to kick off our show with a Fast Flicks where we go around the table and do a quick little summary of our thoughts of the film. MJ, go for it today.
All right, so this was, for me, an insight into the world of a young woman suffering anorexia as she enters a new rehab facility that is set to truly test her.
Good. Peter?
An intense and confronting story of a 20-year-old girl suffering from anorexia, the struggles that her and her family go through in dealing with it, and the new group home she finds herself in with an unconventional doctor.
Cool. I've gone the struggles of a young girl trying to overcome an eating disorder. All right, so obviously this one's we're going to be talking about quite a lot of pressing sort of stuff, I guess. So if you heard our intro, just be mindful of that as we chat, I guess.
Yeah, and we're not going to pretend like we know what we're talking about either, but I think that's probably one of the interesting things about this film. I actually went into this film expecting to learn a lot more than I actually probably did. I thought I'd get more of an insight into the way your brain is wired when you're suffering from this or when you're in this situation. I didn't quite get those answers, but it certainly was a bit of an eye-opener. I think I'm probably jumping ahead, but...
So I'll just follow on from that. Obviously, this podcast isn't the place to go into this, but as you boys know, so a few years ago, I was close with a person who suffered from anorexia. So this film was really personal to me because a lot of the stuff that Alan was going through is stuff that I've seen someone firsthand go through. So it felt really kind of close to home for me, and it was one of the reasons. So now I like this film was one of the reasons. Yeah, it felt really personal to me.
Do you think it's good that the film was made in that sense?
Absolutely, absolutely, I do.
And awesome for you, Heater, because I didn't know whether that was something we were going to bring up. So I'm
I'm happy to bring it up.
Really happy that you have because
you already brought it up.
Yeah.
So and good on you for being upfront and saying that because I think that's awesome too.
Yeah, it's a legit issue, right? It's a real thing that a lot of people aren't exposed to, and this for me was one of the first times I have been exposed to it, albeit in a fictional movie. So
and I see this. On a regular basis at work as well. To me, this was so eye-opening. Not eye-opening, but confronting.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting, and I was going to get into this later, but this is the perfect segue, is that you both watched this film before I did, and you both sent me a message, or sent our group chat a message saying, hey, heads up, this is pretty full-on, make sure you're in the right frame of mind to watch it. And I think as a result, I overcompensated. And I watched this film thinking, okay, it's a nice... it's nice that they're not shying away from some of this stuff, but I wasn't... I suppose I wasn't as hit as hard as maybe you guys were with the impact that it might have in your lives as opposed to where I'm currently at with things.
All right, so let's have a look at what we found out about anything in the production development stage of the creation of this film. MJ, you got anything?
Yeah, look, the Netflix bought the film for $8 million, which I found interesting that we found that out. Normally kept pretty close to the chest, but I also probably take that figure with a little bit of grain of salt. But I think when you look at the numbers of people that have watched it, it's probably a really good venture for them. And I think a streaming service is a great environment to have a film like this where it can be a topic of conversation for people and it's readily available for people to just watch. So it makes sense kind of for every party.
Yep. And I think the thing about this film, which is probably pretty good, is, well, not that it's good, but it's nice that they've got people involved who have had real life experiences with this. So like the director,
and the main actress,
Collins,
Lili Collins, have both suffered an eating disorder in the past.
Yeah. So that sort of gives a realness to this film.
So that's probably the one thing that I wanted to look up as soon as I finished watching this film, because it's a tough role to play, right? Someone's like, I need you to play an anorexic person, so you kind of need to lose some weight. And so Lili Collins, so it seems to me that she battled eating disorders when she was younger, and she received this script for To the Bone. She'd just finished writing a chapter about these battles in her own personal memoir called Unfiltered, if you want to check that out. But she mentions that whilst she suffered an eating disorder, she never had any treatment. She didn't seek any professional help. She kind of just figured it out on her own, and doing this film was actually an amazing opportunity for her to gain knowledge, because a few of the scenes in there were, man, I remember when it was like this. I remember having to do this. So that was one thing I had to know. I'm like, this Lili Collins, did she have this? Is she suffering from it right now? But she worked really closely with a nutritionist during filming, after filming, to make sure that she was okay.
It would have been so hard. Just all those old feelings coming back while you're going through this.
Here's the thing, though. She lost all this weight for the role, and she was saying that a family friend or someone she knew saw her and said, geez, you look great.
Yeah, it's like, geez, that's tough.
Like, well, that's not the idea. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's not what it's supposed to be, yeah.
And you know what? I don't want to sound like I'm saying the wrong thing here, but it doesn't look great. It's not a good look. Like it looks sickly and unhealthy, and I can't believe that people think that.
Mm-hmm.
The only other thing that I sort of had was that rain exhibition that they had, where they're going through, and like the actual exhibition for the rain. The rain doesn't actually hit people.
Yeah, I read that.
I thought when I was watching, I'm like, they're not getting wet, and then obviously the next scene they were wet. Did you notice though they were wet? But where they'd walked from somewhere to somewhere, but when they walked there was no like wetness, where they'd been walking.
Yeah, it's got like these sensors in the floor, so it doesn't actually go on people when they walk under it. Which is pretty cool technology.
Yeah, it is. We should go there.
Okay. Road trip LA. Let's do it.
Flix Forum to LA.
Let's do it.
It feels like
meet with some Hollywood producers. Meet with some Netflix execs.
I think they're probably
put us on their official Netflix.
Absolutely, you should. Yeah.
So the other thing that you touched on with Marti Noxon, the director, told the story from quite a personal place where she'd battled with eating disorders, but I think she kind of mentions that's why she wanted to tell the story with a bit of a sick kind of dark humour that people who are close to the disorder will understand. And you notice they always refer to each other as Rexies. But I think all the characters were kind of laughing through all this kind of stuff where it was difficult, like where Lili Collins' character, spits up food at dinner, and they all kind of just laugh and shake it off. And I think it was important to have that balance to it, that it wasn't just all doom and gloom.
Yeah.
And it was, to me, that made it quite palatable, the film. Excuse my terminology, but it made it feel a little bit more Hollywood and a little bit easier to watch and understand and connect to, because it kind of had as stupid as it sounded, it had a lightness to it,
there was still some comedy in there and some wider moments.
Anything else?
The only other one was, it premiered at the Sundance Film Festival and was nominated for the Grand Jury Prize, which was won by I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, which is a movie that we did a few weeks ago now, maybe a couple months ago now.
Good movie.
Very good movie. And so, this was at that same festival.
It debuted at Sundance in January in 2017, and then Netflix held it off till July. And then it had a cinematic release in the Netherlands as well, on like the week after. So that's an interesting sort of thing, like post being released on Netflix.
It makes you wonder the conversations that would have taken place behind closed doors at Netflix about how should we release this film? What should we do with this film? What's our marketing ploy? What's our angle?
Yeah.
And you assume that's kind of what's happened there.
It was nominated for a couple of other awards and some other things as well, like nominated for the Casting Society of America for the Artios Award for Outstanding Achievement in Casting for a Low-Budget Comedy or Drama.
It's really specific.
Very specific.
Real specific
I wonder how many
award.
films were. I couldn't say anything, but I wonder how many films are actually in contest for that. It was filmed in Santa Clarita, in California. And there was one time that really, it was meant to be in Phoenix, in Arizona. It was meant to be in Arizona. And like when there's a scene, we're going to spoil this film. We're going to spoil, just so you know, we're going to spoil this film. There's a scene where she's in the desert and wakes up. And I was like, that is not an Arizona desert. I was like, that just did my head in. But apart from that, so it was filmed in California.
It's a low budget film, man.
Yeah, true. A few product placements in this one as well. I picked up on. There's a nice. She's in the car and there's this Taco Bell that she goes past. I'm like, oh, I feel like tacos right now.
What about that chocolate?
With chocolate, I didn't recognize that one. But
Neither did I.
It looked delicious though.
And at the end, when waiting at the bus stop, there's all these Greyhound logos, which is a big bus company in America too. So yeah, I just picked up a couple of those things.
You always do. Nothing gets past
Just thinking.
Can't get past him.
My brain doesn't rest. Critical consensus we haven't really touched on yet.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
What did you find, Hater?
So IMDb 6.8 out of 10, Letterboxd 3.1 out of 5. So kind of around that 6.5 average kind of mark from all the users. 33,000 and 21,000 ratings on those. So
big numbers again.
Big numbers.
33,000 on 9
Quite a few people have
21,000
on
Letterboxd is
that's a lot. Yeah.
And Rotten Tomatoes had 62 reviews, so that's pretty good. Pretty good for a Netflix film. 71%.
It's good.
The
for
audience
an inferior platform like Rotten Tomatoes, that's not bad.
And the audience was 64% on nearly 4,500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
no,
reviews.
people liked it. You know what? It's a hard movie to really like. It does a lot of things right.
Yeah.
All right. What are our early thoughts on this film before we move any further? Personal thoughts about what we thought.
You go.
Do you want me to go? Look, I thought this film was pretty incredible. As I said, it's kind of had a real personal connection for me, as I'd kind of seen someone like Ellen go through this very closely firsthand. And so just, like all the stuff she was going through is stuff that I've seen someone go through, and it just felt really real and confronting, and like, that's it. This is exactly what happens. This is exactly what goes on. So yeah, I thought it was a real good try. I thought a lot of the characters are great. And yeah, I as much as hard as it was often to watch, I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was great.
Yeah, look, despite the heavy themes and what I think is a bold decision to not shy away from some of the important imagery in it, it did still have a lightness to it, to the tone of it, and the story and the characters were more entertaining because of it. So the film itself was easy to watch. As I said, I received warnings from both of you beforehand, which I think put my threshold really high. So I didn't find it as confronting as other films that I've seen, and it's just not something that I can relate to as much either. But I thought it was a pretty decent film.
Yeah, I thought it was very confronting, and it's not going to be for everyone, this film. So,
no, not at all.
But I think it does a good job of highlighting something that's like really taboo in society. Quite
It is a little bit, you're right.
And
it is, yeah.
To be able to get a film like this made and out there to 33,000 whatever people that have seen it on IMDb, it's obviously got this. It's been well received and watched.
It seems like a real word of mouth kind of film, doesn't it?
So I thought this was a fairly decent film. Yeah,
I don't think it's as not. I think it's easier to watch than some people think. Like you say, like it won't appeal to everyone. I think people can watch this and there's nothing. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but there's nothing about the film where I'm like, this is a really ordinary film or this is going too far. I think it did things tastefully, but things that had to be done.
Yeah.
I don't think you watch this film and go, can't do it, can't sit through it. I think it connects you well enough to be like, no, I'm should be watching this. I can continue watching this. Whereas some films that have really heavy themes and again do it for the right reasons are a lot more difficult to sit through. And I think as I said, this balance that it has between the tone of the film works really well.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything distasteful in screen, so I agree with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing distasteful.
Nothing at all. And I think, and that's when often films are best, if you're touching on these topics that are hard sometimes to talk about, it's often the best films are the ones that don't put it in your face and visually show you what's going on. It's the ones that you understand what's going on and that impacts you more because you're visualizing in your head the worst that there possibly can be. So, I think of that. All right, should we look at some characters?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
Who wants to kick it off?
I would love to.
Go for it.
We're calling her Alan or Eli?
That's a good question too, because I've got in my notes here, I'm like, Alan or Eli? do we respect the character's wishes and go with Eli?
I was going to say, like, she wants to be called Eli. Let's call her Eli.
Happy with that? Call her Eli.
Obviously played by Billy Collins. I wanted to learn with her, and I wanted to learn more about the illness through her. She had this complete detachment with the idea of being beaten by the illness. She didn't seem to be bothered by the fact that it could beat her, which which was believable for me. I just needed to understand a little bit more about how she was actually feeling. I think that would have really helped me, because that's the one thing that I couldn't wrap my head around as much with this illness, and whether they were going to explore more about how she got to where she got to. I know it's obviously a mental thing that they struggle with, but I kind of felt that there was more there that we weren't given. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm in the boat where I thought the character was good, because often in situations like this, it's impossible for them to explain or talk about how they got there, why they're there, or how they're feeling.
Yeah, and there was no cop out like this scene where a psych where it breaks her and she's like, oh yeah.
I think that's a highlight of it, in that there is no answer a lot of the times. It's just you've got to. Sometimes you want to beg and ask what's going on, what's wrong, why you like this, and sometimes there is no answer.
Yeah.
There's no reasonable response. So I've liked that there was no, throughout the whole film, there was no actual explanation of it. It was just this is what's going on.
Yeah, I thought she was a great character. I really liked her, but I think I also liked it because I had that personal connection. But I guess, as you were saying before, like, you wanted to learn more about the illness. Well, I guess that differs to me because
you've lived it.
Yeah, I feel like I already know about this, so I didn't care about that sense because I guess knew that. So it's definitely kind of, with different people watching it, we'll have different kind of reactions as to, how much they know, wanting to know more. But no, I thought kind of, her character was great.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that she suffers from anorexia because of X. I know, I know it's not that simple, and I would have hated if they had done that. She was abused as a child, and now she doesn't eat, like something like that. So I understand that. I couldn't quite get her.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
My favourite character was Kelly, her stepsister, mainly because she was by far the most relatable character for me. So she understood enough about Eli to see what she was going through and not constantly kind of tell her off like everyone else in her family was. Mm-hmm. But she also had that very normal reaction of, I don't know why she doesn't just eat. And it would have annoyed me if that wasn't brought up at some point in the film. Because that's what I'm assuming most people think.
That's what a lot of people think who don't kind of understand the illness. It's a perfectly reasonable thought to think, really.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed her, and she was me in the film, right? When you watch a film, someone's always you. Just a lot of things that she said, I was just like, perfect. That's what I would have said right now. What's the answer? And that was great because she still loved and cared for her.
Yeah. She was the only person in that film that was really looking out for others, and I know that they made it really obvious in that family sort of scene that she was like, the doctor said, you're the only one that's not thinking about yourself. And we probably didn't even need that to happen, because I feel like the way that she was developed, you knew that anyway, and you could work that out. That as that sister, she was going to be there for her.
Yeah, it was good. I needed her in that film.
Yeah, she was good. Yeah, I really liked her.
The character that I couldn't stand was Lucas.
Luke.
Sorry, Luke. He was just way too pretentious, and I don't understand why he had to be British. I don't know. That just did my head in. I was like, you could still have, I don't know. He just, any scene that he was in didn't really do much for me.
I didn't really care about the British part.
Yeah.
He was one of my favourite characters.
Yeah.
I just thought he was just so caring. He wanted to help everyone in that house. He was the one in there that was kind of holding them up a lot of the time, and I've got a few scenes where I really liked with him. I thought he was just a fantastic, really caring character.
I also think he was really important for managing that light tone of the film.
Yeah.
He was that beacon within that house that kept things light, and the film needed that. But I think to that point that Heater makes is the house needed that too. I actually thought it was going to get to a point where he was planted in the house and he wasn't actually a sufferer. The one thing that did bother me about him, I thought there were a lot of gaps to his story, and I was waiting for this big reveal, and it didn't come. And maybe that's a little bit too Hollywood, but it felt like they were leading up to something more than what they actually did with him.
He seemed, it was just this real convenient, and I don't know whether maybe that's the actor that played the role. and maybe he just needed to tone it down a bit, and then so he wasn't. I know you needed that positivity in that house, but I don't know, maybe just tone it down a little bit because there was just, he created a lot of awkwardness, which didn't sit right with me. Where if I had been fully on board with him, then it probably I probably needed him. Like, he was definitely caring, definitely there for everyone in the house, but there were just parts that I was like, there was just something didn't sit right.
Yeah, okay.
Fair enough.
I thought his acting performance actually was the standout performance. Just the charisma.
I thought he was great. Yeah, I thought he was brilliant. I loved him.
The British thing also didn't bother me.
Okay.
You know what? I think that they would have been casting for the role, and he got it, and they're like, "Oh, he's British. All right, we'll write that in."
He reminded me of Sharpay's dude in High School Musical.
Her brother,
yeah.
Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan.
Nah, he's dumbass.
I don't know. That was just what I had in my head as I was watching it. Anyway, Dr. Beckham. What did you think of Keanu Reeves as Dr. Beckham? Was that
I think
realistic
Keanu Reeves
role?
played Keanu Reeves.
Yes. Was that a realistic doctor role?
I can't answer that.
I liked him, but there just wasn't enough of him.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of kind of, I guess, the whole movie and the treatment in this program, I needed more of the doctor actually treating and helping. So I thought that I thought the character was good in terms of, like, he spoke really well, I guess, with Eli and in those sessions and stuff. But yeah, I just wanted more of his character in the film and more of him actually being the doctor.
His technique was, I don't know, I think they tried to make it out like it was really revolutionary. Yeah. It was kind of just like, well, what was it really? He wants her to hit rock bottom so she understands where rock bottom is.
Just possibly could be quite unconventional.
I guess, but I feel like it's like the whole breaking things down to build it up again, which is being done.
Also, as well, kind of like the rules in the house, especially like the eating around the table thing. Like, you don't have to eat anything you don't want to, but you're not leaving until
True.
So there are some different kind of rules in the house he put in place that are quite unconventional, as you would say.
I had no problem with Keanu Reeves in that role, but to your point where you said you just wanted more of him, it didn't bother me that there wasn't more of him.
Yeah, fair enough.
I guess I don't think he was as important as he might have had to have been.
I wasn't a massive fan of Susan as the stepmom.
I wanted to punch my TV. I hated her with a passion.
I think that she was really well intentioned.
Yeah, I agree.
But when things go the wrong way, she always felt like it was the last straw, and she got flustered, and she acted accordingly. But her heart was in the right place with everything. Like, you look at the dad, wasn't even around. Like, she tried, she just wasn't equipped to deal with it.
Yeah, I think I hated her because I think of the things she did. I thought she was really kind of insensitive to her daughter's illness.
Massively.
But that character is still important because it shows that, even if someone is struggling from eating disorder, the family struggles too, because a lot of them it's completely true that these people that she might not have a clue how to deal with it. As you said, her heart might be in the right place, but she's just got no idea how to deal with it. And so I completely understand that, but it was just like, some of the things she did, where I was just like, oh my god, it is not what you should be doing to your anorexic daughter.
I liked that they had that split family too, because it sort of put that emphasis on she's taking on this responsibility for a child that's not maternally hers, but she's still got this massive interest in this kid.
Absolutely, yeah. She's still trying.
Even though like everything that went wrong came back to how it impacted her rather than anyone else.
It did. Yeah. She was always thinking, and you know what? That was almost exactly the same as what's the actual mum's name? Judy. I felt that was very similar situation where these are two people that are dealing with indirectly, but they're dealing with the issues that come off the back of it, and they're kind of at the last straw with it. And Judy, and I've seen this happen not with anorexia but with other illnesses, where families who love and care for the person basically have to be like, you need to get out and figure it out, because I am doing everything I can and it's not working. And doing that and throwing out your own daughter would be really, really difficult. But that was the decision that they made. And I still can sit there and go, I get it. I get what you're doing. I've literally seen it done with people before, and it's worked, and it's tough, but I kind of understood that. Whilst it looks callous and, sorry, we can't have you right now. This is a girl who's could be weeks away from dying. Sorry, right now is not a good time for us. It's not what that meant. That meant we've tried everything. Yeah. You being here doesn't work. Yeah. So
it also gave that chance to have different situations shown in the one story, rather than it's not just one situation of how families deal with it. You get to see a couple of different situations of how families deal with it.
It affects everyone.
Everyone reacts differently.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Really good point you made there, Heater. The knock-on effect.
All right. Any other characters that you want to talk about?
No, I've got no other characters.
This is the director Marti Noxon's first feature.
Yeah, her directorial debut.
I saw her directed some Buffy episodes back in the day.
Well, she was one of the main writers and producers
for Buffy.
And a number of other shows as well. She's, I think I saw she did Unreal, which is a show that my wife loves.
Reality.
Fake reality. Yeah, the fictional show about the reality show, which my wife absolutely loves.
That is mine. It looks terrible.
It's awful. But she's done a fair bit of writing and producing, it seemed. And this was kind of the first directing chance.
So acting performances, pretty happy with most of the way?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was. I thought they were all really good.
They would have been bloody tough roles. I mean, I was flicking through... that was a chair, by the way, if that gets picked up on the microphone. I was flicking through IMDb, and so many of the things were, so-and-so has played an anorexic girl in this, and so-and-so has played an anorexic girl. So a lot of this cast who are in the house probably have had eating disorders in their life, and that would have been all really difficult roles for them to play.
Absolutely,
so credit to them all.
All right, hey, now kick us off with your standout scenes.
All right, so can't remember how early it was, but the first the weighing scene where Alan's stepmom is weighing Eli, and you see kind of in the back how skinny and bony she is, and I guess because I've seen that before, and straight away I'm just like, okay, wow, this is intense. I thought it was a good setup for how confronting and how in depth they're going to go into, I guess, how sick these people are. So I really enjoyed that start.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Enjoyed, but not really confronting.
Not enjoyed. Like, it was hard to watch, but
it was like a well done for doing it.
Yeah, well done for doing it. Yeah, I liked the scene where Luke says grace around the table. I thought that was just one of the ones I thought he showed where he really cared. I think he says, "Dear Jesus, Allah, Oprah, My Little Pony, or whoever your personal savior is, help us to give our bodies what they need to grow strong and beautiful, because every single person at this table deserves to live." Just a really good sentiment, and also I really like the kind of whoever your personal savior is, kind of just accepting of everyone. Everyone, has got different beliefs. They rely on different things. Really, just accepting of whichever you need to help you. You go for it.
Deserves to live is an important line too.
Exactly, yeah.
Highlighting which is massive thing. It's the level that
they say it a few things throughout the film.
This isn't just like you're a bit sick and we need to get you better.
You're in danger of dying.
Serious.
Yeah. A bit after that, when Pearl, who was the girl who had the tube at the start, she broke down at dinner because of she weren't how many calories were in the food, and you just see Luke. He's on the couch. I think he's holding her and he's singing with her, just showing it. I thought he was just he was. It seemed like he was almost there in his recovery, but he still wanted to help everyone else try and get there. And again, it just showed what I thought was he was just such a caring person, and
they repeated that really shot too. They showed the shot upstairs, and then someone came downstairs. I can't remember who it was, and you saw that same shot again. Still put the emphasis.
Like they were clearing the table, so that's how long it had been. Right?
Yeah,
and you don't like Luke.
You're trying to make me feel like a horrible person. Keep going, Heater.
We spoke before the water art scene. I thought it looked really cool. The song playing through it really fit. It was great, and for a film that was for me very confronting and serious, it was it was an uplifting scene.
And you did need
something
that,
really needed, and I thought it was really good.
Though his knee didn't look too crook when he was dancing around, did
it? It didn't. Well, that's maybe why it was. It was a bit after you heard it more. Yeah,
the visuals in that were awesome.
Yeah,
really
I thought it looked fantastic.
And the little mini speech by the doctor before they went in there about you're alive. Like, that was nice.
Yeah. Everything was kind of good at that point of the film.
Yeah,
she was doing better. Her and Luke were kind of a thing. Classic story arc.
Yeah. And the last one was again it's a pretty kind of serious and confronting one, but it was the miscarriage scene with Megan. So kind of it just showed enough so you knew it was going on. Like you were saying before, it didn't linger and make it uncomfortable. It wasn't kind of in your face. It was just you just kind of saw the door open. You saw what had happened. You're like, yep, this is it, and it went away. So I just thought it was it was an important and confronting scene to know how dangerous it is for a lot of different aspects of your life being, that sick, and just showing what can happen. And again, it was I thought it was a really important scene to show.
It's a great point. I would have actually been disappointed if they didn't show something.
Yeah.
I would have felt like, no, I can see this.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that.
I've got that in there too. I had it. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
the trauma
it was.
that that baby,
And again, I thought it was just, you probably saw it for half a second, and that was all you needed. That was all you needed. Like, I think if they had lingered on a bit longer, it probably would have been in my bad scenes, because I'm like, you don't need to put this on our face. But it was just kind of about half a second to know what was going on and know these things happen, and
that's a very good point.
So I had all the scenes with all the different methods that all the kids were using to avoid eating. Like you spoke about the weigh-ins, and there were so many other little things that I spoke about. I thought that this led to this confronting sort of stuff, and I thought that they were needed, and it was good that they included all of those in there, so you could see all the different methods that people use. And they're things that you may not necessarily pick up on unless you live with it and are aware of this.
All the walking, running,
lots of exercise, sit-ups in bed,
the constant running, and I think she makes a comment, don't worry, I haven't sewn rocks into my clothes just to weigh her down to make it seem heavier.
When he wants to take her out for dinner, she's like, nah. He's like, well, we can walk there. She's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Can we run there? Like that.
Although I said that I didn't like Luke, that scene in the Thai restaurant I did enjoy, because I didn't like any of the other scenes with the two of them. But I thought that scene in the Thai restaurant where they have a beer each or whatever, and
so they had their Tsing Tao, but you didn't actually see the Tsing Tao. You're okay with that product placement? They mention it, but they didn't show it.
It was in the cup. Well, that made sense, seeing as they're in a Thai restaurant. Better than saying, "Oh, I'll get you a bud" or something. Like
True.
That made sense with the story. I thought all the scenes with the Doctor and Eli were great. I thought the chemistry between those two as actors and the characters sort of bouncing off each other were believable, and I believed that he wanted to help her.
Yeah, absolutely.
I liked in the house too that they had often the scenes where they're sitting around the couch and they're watching TV, or they're sitting around the table, or they're sitting around the couch talking to the lady that comes in and talks to them, and they had a bigger girl there too.
Yeah.
And I really like that shows that eating disorders, they impact.
It's not just skinny people. It's not just the anorexia and the bulimic as well. There is other people.
How much do you reckon that actress got sick of peanut butter by the end of filming?
Yeah, true. That's all I've got. Yeah.
The only other one that I had that you guys didn't mention was when Eli and Kelly was sitting watching all those people on the top of their car at the start at dusk, and Eli said, "I've got it under control." And she said, "How many people down there do you think just said that before dying?"
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I was... And I just like the fact that she had the guts to say something like that. Like, you can say this as much as you want. Everyone says this.
Yeah.
And that's when I first started really relating to that character.
Cool.
What were some things that we didn't like, Peter?
So the big one that got me, as we were talking about before, the stepmom, and I guess in my opinion the insensitivity, was when she brings over the big cake, which kind of really triggered me off. Like, you just cannot be doing, and it's more from a personal opinion, you just cannot be doing that. It just showed that she was completely insensitive to her illness and what she needed. That was saying I wanted to punch her when she brought that out. But however, I can also appreciate it was necessary to show the struggles that family members who just can't accept or understand the illness. Like,
she didn't get it. That's
exactly.
Right.
She probably thought that she was making a joke or something, when really that was not the thing to do. So I can completely understand, and it was important to be in there. It just frustrated me that she brought that
cake didn't look very nice either.
It didn't either. The Eli and her mum, the bottle feeding scene in the tent was a bit weird.
Yeah, I've got that down there too. And I think it's a bit like with the cake scene. I found it awkward, and it needed to be awkward. But yeah,
you're right.
Yeah,
it did.
Yeah, it had to be awkward, because if you didn't make that awkward, it defeats that scene becomes irrelevant. Yeah,
Without it, that was her turning point, where her mum was basically saying goodbye to her. She was like, "This is it. Like, you're going to die. This is my final plea. This is the last thing I have. Yeah, it's unconventional as hell, but I got nothing else." And that was when it finally hit home with Eli, which led to the next scene where things turned around for her. So she did kind of need that, and it was weirdly awkward, but it needed to be.
The next scene. So you talk about the next scene where she lies out under the moon and gets got very dehydrated, and it's this dream. So it just confused me a little bit because you've got this turning point with the mum where she accepts the mum's help. So you're like, okay, she's willing to accept this help. But then she goes off and it was almost like, why did she... Like, I don't understand.
I needed a trip out to turn around. I didn't like that either.
Yeah.
I got the initial feeling that she went for a big walk to walk off the rice milk that she'd just drunk.
Okay, yeah.
And then obviously passed out because she was, close to dying. She had nothing left. And then she kind of has this, like, reborn dream, which... She saw that image of her naked on the floor and was like, wow, is that what I look like? Yeah, it didn't do much for me. And when I was thinking, like, this is going to be the turning point of the film, it feels like a bit of a cop-out because I didn't see anything too much to suggest that she would have that turnaround. And that's all I can attribute it to is that scene with her mum when she finally understood that this could be it. But that scene itself didn't really work for me.
Because you could have just gone from her being fed by mum to moving on from there.
I agree.
Without having that, because that could have been the turnaround.
It felt too Hollywood almost.
Yeah, I don't think the imagery that you had in that dream sequence necessarily helped with any of the building or the understanding of anything.
I thought it was important for her to see what she looked like.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that was probably...
Yeah, that was probably just needed that.
Which, if they had shown that in another way, then sure. But I thought it was really important that she saw and she acknowledged, is that what I look like?
Yep.
Which is, yeah.
Did anything else that we didn't like?
It's not something that I didn't like. I feel like the film glossed a bit too much over the other patients in the house. Obviously, Eli was the main character, was centered on her. I would have really liked to see a bit more on the other different girls' struggles as well.
That's a really good point.
Like, you saw a little bit. You had the girl with the tube. Obviously, one of the girls was pregnant and really worried about not being able to make it to 12 weeks. There was this really small girl who I think she
seemed particularly young.
She was bulimic, I think, but because I just said she likes eating ice cream because that's easier to come up.
Yeah.
But that was really all about it. I really would have liked to see a bit more as well on their struggles and flesh out their struggles a bit more.
Good point. I thought there was I suppose the miscarriage scene was a big one, but I thought there would be something more on each of the characters.
Yeah.
Something that might have happened, good or bad.
Yeah.
But
I mentioned before, that Luke was the one that sort of did my head in, and now that you've told, you've spoken about all the good things here, the things that just sort of annoyed me, probably maybe why I didn't like him as much, was that chocolate scene with him really put me off a bit. Where he's trying to make her eat the chocolate and...
They're watching TV.
Yeah, and he's turning it...
Dragons on TV.
Yeah, dragons on TV. And it was turning it really sexual, and then, you see her snap. And I just, was good, you needed to snap at him for that, because he was crossing that line.
The sexual thing continued with him throughout, and I didn't like it either.
And especially outside when they're, he kisses her and
strange.
then, he tells her that he loves her. And I was just like... I don't know if we needed that.
No, you need to feel the touch of someone who actually cares about you.
Yeah, I wanted someone to care about her the whole way. He cares about everyone in that house, and then it just sort of turned into it was like he was almost obsessed with her because he downloaded her drawings and had.
But he could have been a lot less sexual. That's what bothered me with it, and
just as a friendship,
exactly,
love, rather than a.
He got the treatment he deserved from that. Yeah, the sexual thing was just weird, though. It was almost like he was just this young guy. Because didn't he say to her, have you ever done it, sort of thing? You get the feeling that he made
some weird joke about it'd be like banging bones together or something.
Yeah, that was him being awkward and shut down.
Yeah. And that's...
I probably should add that in my scenes because I didn't particularly like that one either.
Anything else that... No?
No.
All right.
No.
Well, let's talk about what the movie's saying. Heater?
I think one of the big ones was that, a lot of different people suffer from different kinds of eating disorders, and there's no one way to deal with it. Some things are going to work for one person, other things are going to work for another. There's no kind of you've got an eating disorder. This is how you overcome it, which is really important. Everyone's different, and different methods work for different people.
And that almost stands for all kinds
for all kinds of illnesses. Yeah, not just eating disorders, all kinds of illnesses.
And to that, the effect, and we spoke about this at length already, the effect that has on the people around you.
Yep,
exactly.
Just impact.
And a little bit too, not on the emphasis being, the emphasis at times doesn't need to be about the family, it's about the person you're trying to help.
Exactly, yeah. And some, said, well, the strain it has on those family members who are trying to help but just don't know how because they don't understand it fully themselves. And as much as they're kind-hearted and they've got the good intentions, sometimes it's just a struggle because they don't understand. They want to help, but they're just not sure how. It can really affect them just as much as it affects the person who's sick.
There's sort of that message too, like that's maybe society's to blame a little bit about these body image expectations. I think
they definitely touch on that.
Yeah, they touch on that when they're having this discussion, and that's quite obvious in what you see. The little bit that like this trauma a little bit too. Like I felt like the dad being absent from that whole life the whole time was sort of indicating that sometimes when things don't go right, that it can lead to this trauma. And that's not necessarily that leads to the disorder, but sometimes that trauma can impact not just like people in a family, like a whole family situation, really. Because it's got these split families, it's got people wanting different things from different situations.
I was kind of surprised by the lack of any resolution with the dad. I thought something was going to be there at the end, and it's kind of brave that it wasn't.
And it's weird too because at the end she does go back to that house where the dad lives.
Exactly.
And
that's what I thought.
Yeah, you could have had him standing on the lawn with them at the end.
Yeah.
The life was a big message in this too. Being alive.
Everyone deserves to live.
Yeah, exactly. And they touch on that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Last thing I had too was it's not about trying to find fault, but working on a resolution as like a group and a team rather than trying to find or blame people for this is
why
what
aren't you
happened.
eating this?
Yeah.
It's like let's forget about that. Let's not blame anyone. Let's
just see how we can get you better.
Exactly.
Bloody hell, that's a great one, mate.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Yeah, same here. You covered it all.
So, what do we take away from this film?
I thought it was really confronting and powerful and in your face about the right messaging. I thought it was just a really important film to get out there so people can see the struggle that a lot of people go through.
Yep.
There's a particular mindset you need to be in, and I think
absolutely
when recommending this film, and I'd be happy to, it comes with a caveat.
Yeah. This is one that I wouldn't want to watch at the movies. I'd want to be watching in the comfort of my own home.
Sure.
Yeah, I got on that. You need to be in a good mindset because it's very impactful. It makes you think.
Yeah.
Did anyone jump on IMDb at any stage to check out any actors, actresses?
Yeah, bro.
Yep.
Good, bro. Tell us, bro. What did you look
My
at?
girl Kelly. I had a big Kelly theme in this
I did
film.
Kelly as well.
Yeah. So, Liana Liberato, which is a great name for an actress. So, she is in the movie The Best of Me, which I worked on the advertising campaign for many moons ago. She plays young Amanda, which is basically young Michelle Monaghan in that film. Doesn't look like Michelle Monaghan, but that's who she was. I also had Carrie Preston, who plays Susan, the stepmom, even though I knew that she played Arlene in True Blood.
Yeah.
I just kind of wanted to...
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about now, yeah.
I recognised as soon as I heard her voice.
Yeah.
Bloody Arlene.
I also looked up the sister, Kelly. She was in this movie. She was a lot younger in this movie. It was a movie called Trust, which I watched not that long ago.
The Trust?
Just called Trust. And it's about, she plays this young kid who's lured by an online predator. Her dad's Clive Owen in the film. That's also a tough film. Like, it's got tough themes and tough ideas in it, but also recommend that film.
Yep, fair enough. It seems like it
Yeah.
happens more often than you think.
Mine was the main character, Eli.
No, yeah.
I did not recognise her from last week's film. Did not at all. I looked it up and I'm like, hang on, she was in...
she was Red in...
Okja, yeah. I was like, wow, yeah, because I really liked her and I really liked the actress. I looked it up to see kind of what else she's been in and was like, oh, she was in a movie I watched last week.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
Phil Collins' daughter.
Is it?
Yeah, like
Really?
the singer.
I did not know that.
Wow.
Yeah, I know who
Phil Collins is, yeah. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go, small world.
You know what pleased me is how how much better she looked in Okja. But like the weight loss hadn't been.
Yeah.
I don't know what was filmed when. It's always kind of difficult to tell. But obviously she's looking better, and it was just a really big commitment to the role.
Yeah. Did you guys have any questions that you wanted to ask?
No, only around the dad. So we kind of talked about that.
You go.
I only had one because we've spoken before about you do a lot of teaching in films. Is this a film that you would show to your kids at school?
That's a really good question, and I would probably. as much as I'd love to, I probably wouldn't.
Might be a bit too close to home for some people.
It's really tricky. Like, as a teacher, you try your best to know your students as best as possible, but at times you can't.
People are suffering.
And there's a lot of times where I'll look at, okay, I'm going to look, got this in the curriculum, I'm doing this film or this TV show or this clip or whatever, and then I'm like, okay, I think about it, I'm like, no, I can't do that because I know this situation or because of that. And this one is a tricky one because at times you don't necessarily know, like, you're not going to know what's going on in some people's lives.
You've got to be careful for triggers here and there, and this one is got some blunt triggers in it.
Yep. So as much as I would, because I'd love to have that open discussion with a class, I probably wouldn't.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's tricky.
I want, like, so the ending. Were you disappointed with that end? Like, I'm a little bit torn because so the end literally has Eli getting in a cab going back to her sister, her stepmom, and hopefully her dad at some stage.
No, not her dad.
Not her dad.
No.
So the dad's never coming back.
Well, because then obviously the next scene
she goes to the house.
Go back to the house, back to the rehab house.
Yep.
And if her dad was keen, he would be there as well. They make it pretty clear that his dad's
he's not in the picture.
That doesn't mean he's never going to be. But
So I thought it was a great ending.
Yeah.
I like, she kind of, hugs, stepmom and sister, being like, and she tells, it's going to be okay, I'm in control. And I guess also kind of maybe shows appreciation to the stepmom is like, hey, as much as you weren't great to me, your heart was there and I know you were trying, so I really like that. And then she goes back to the house where she thinks she's going to get better, so that was a really happy ending for me, in that she thinks she's got it under control now. She thinks she knows how to get better. The house is the place to do it, and she's going to go there and she's going to try and get better.
If nothing else, it just shows you that the work is never done.
Well, that's what I've got, and I thought so. Maybe the point of the ending was to make it that the struggle never ends. It just doesn't. It just continues.
But also, this part of her tale was only the beginning, right? Keanu,
absolutely,
Dr. Beckham's techniques were, I need to break her down. I need to get her to rock bottom. And she only just got to that point, so now the healing begins. It would have felt a bit, if they had done 6 months later and she's all good and all happy.
It would have been good.
The work is still to be done.
Does that change your opinion on the stepmom then? That your interpretation of the ending is that even though her paternal father's gone and like this girl literally has nothing, like,
she was there.
Yeah, she's there for her, even though she has no...
Yeah, I mean, look, when I say I hated the stepmom, I hated some of the things she did.
You were frustrated with her.
Yeah, I was more frustrated with the things she did, I guess, from knowing it at a personal level, whereas I can completely see that she was trying hard, she just didn't understand it, and, that's makes me frustrated, but it is also an unfair criticism on her. I can completely acknowledge that, so...
It's all a big, lot of similarities to suffering from any addiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether it be gambling, whether it be drinking... People who have these addictions can't stop, and in this case, it's eating. I can't stop not eating, kind of thing. And you can see the impact that would have on families, and that's kind of really got me thinking that at the end, where it's like, okay, I'm going to start this again. I'm going to try again. That's probably was like, as much as this is really specific to dealing with eating disorders, that's what makes it quite relatable. Is that a lot of this stuff happens for a whole host of reasons.
All right, so let's wrap this up. We go around and have a chat about what we think about the film and give it a rating out of 5 and then come up with an average as a team. MJ, start us off.
Yeah, this was a pretty good film. I think it had an important message, but it still told it in a Hollywood-friendly enough way, but still keeping with its appropriate MA 15+ rating. It was interesting and engaging journey about a bleak component of human life. For me, it's 3 stars.
Awesome. So, for me, it was confronting, it was gutsy, and I think a much-needed film. I don't know if I'm necessarily the target audience that's going to connect on with this, like, personally sort of thing, but I can totally, like, as an outsider, because obviously I don't have this experience massively on this, I can see how meaningful this can be for so many others to have this representation on the screen. So I also am giving it a 3 out of 5. Heater.
I thought this was a great film. It kind of, to me, it really showed what it's like. Sorry, to live with an eating disorder. It was really tough and confronting, and for me, it was personal. I thought it was incredible. I give it 4 out of 5.
Nice. So what does that give us as an average?
It gives us a 3.33.
3.33.
Good. I'd be curious if there's any particularly negative feedback on this film about people that it really rubbed up the wrong way. People who
I did read a few reviews, which I think probably in the same vein as 13 Reasons Why.
Okay.
In that people
gave you ideas.
Some people thought that show 13 Reasons Why it glorified suicide a bit. Of people saying that this glorified eating disorders and anorexia a bit, which I don't agree with at all.
I don't agree with either of those takes.
But yeah, me neither. But it was something that I read from a few people.
Okay. Yeah. I'd be curious if someone who suffers it, whether they think it's not a fair reaction or not a fair telling of the story. I don't know. I didn't look into it, so I don't know. But I'd be curious. There must be something.
Yeah, there would be some.
So we are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're at Flicks Forum. We like to get on there and have a chat and discussion. We usually chuck a question of the week up there. This week, I'm not going to go with a question. I just want you guys to check in on a friend, see how they're doing.
I like that question.
Really good. Pick a friend and just check in, say how you doing. Ask that question.
That's the question of the week. How you doing?
How you doing? That's it. All right. So if you can, please subscribe to us. Hit us up, 5-star ratings if possible. Next week, we are looking at a 2017 romantic comedy. It's called The Incredible Jessica James. It's directed by James C. Strauss, and it stars Jessica Williams, Chris O'Dowd, who was from Mascots, Noel Wells, Lakeith Stanfield, from Sandcastle.
No, he's from War Machine.
War Machine, yes. War Machine. Sorry, getting the words. Megan Ketch and Sabrina Guevara. So please get on board with that one. We've got a couple of recurring cast members from previous Netflix films.
I actually did not know what film we had next week, but you've got me excited with Lakeith Stanfield.
And I'm already looking at that title going, Incredible Jessica James, and the main cast member is Jessica.
And the director was James.
James, So... Ooh, what is this going for?
We will find out very soon.
Chatting about it next week.
Very soon.
Thanks for a really good discussion, boys.
Really good discussion.
Been good. And appreciate listening, and we'll be back next week.
We will.
See you, boys.
Thanks for listening.